October 25th, 1415. A grey, storm-choked morning in northern France. The fields are slick with mud. The wind carries the scent of wet earth and death. Every step is a struggle. Imagine standing there, your stomach hollow, your body aching from weeks of marching. The cold bites at your fingers. Your armor clinks as you shift, but it offers little protection from exhaustion or disease. Your sword feels heavier than usual, your shield greasy with mud. And yet, you must hold your ground. This is not the battlefield you imagined from stories of knights and glory. This is Agincourt. This is the raw, grinding reality of medieval war. And it is here, in this miserable, mud-soaked place, that history will be made. You see, the English army was not in a position to win. Outnumbered 5-1, exhausted, sick and starving. Henry V, their king, was no exception. Weeks of fever and dysentery had racked his body. Half of his army had already fallen, not to French swords but to disease. Yet Henry pressed forward. Why? Because he understood something most men do not. He understood that courage is contagious, that resolve can overcome numbers, that hope, when wielded like a weapon, is more powerful than steel. 2 years earlier, Henry had ascended to the throne of England. Young, ambitious, and determined to prove himself, he inherited a kingdom that was weary of war, but hungry for legitimacy. The 100 Years' War had been raging for generations, a brutal cycle of raids, sieges, and bloodshed. Kings and nobles had fought over crowns and territories, but for the common soldier, it was a nightmare of hunger, disease, and death. Henry saw an opportunity. He wanted France, not just for land, but for glory. He wanted to unite England behind him, to cement his legacy, to become a king whose name would echo through history. In August 1415, he sailed across the Channel with an army of over 12,000 men. Their first target, the fortified port of Harfleur. The siege was long and brutal. Rain turned the ground to mud. Disease spread faster than arrows. Dysentery claimed men in their hundreds. Horses dropped dead in the mud. Soldiers collapsed beside them. The city's walls did not fall easily, and by the time they did, Henry's army was barely half its original size. This is where most leaders would have turned back. Most kings would have admitted the campaign was lost. But Henry was not most kings. He made a choice that would define him forever. Instead of retreating, he led his battered army on a grueling march across hostile territory, deep into France, toward the heart of enemy lands. Imagine the men, every day a march, every day a struggle for food and clean water, every night exposed to rain, mud, and fear. Every step, a battle against the elements and the inevitable sickness that stalked them. And all the while, news arrived that French forces were mobilizing to intercept them. Thousands upon thousands of knights and men-at-arms, hungry for revenge, tracking their every move. By the time they reached the village of Agincourt, the English army numbered barely 6,000. And yet, they were about to face a French army 3 to 5 times their size. Picture it, the French army, glittering in polished armor, banners snapping in the wind, horses snorting steam, lances pointed forward, shields gleaming. The pride of French nobility, every one of them eager to prove themselves, every one of them convinced that this would be an easy victory. The English army, by contrast, is ragged, mud-covered, starving, sick. And yet they are disciplined and they are prepared. Henry chooses his ground carefully. A narrow field hemmed in by woods, muddy, rain-slicked terrain, the perfect trap. He has stakes planted in front of his archers to break cavalry charges. He organizes his men into a tight formation, shoulder to shoulder, shield to shield. Not a line stretched thin, but a wall of determination. And then silence. Hours pass. The French hesitate, underestimating these ragged Englishmen. They assume the battle will be easy. But Henry knows that the longer they wait, the weaker his men become. He cannot afford to delay. And then, the longbowmen move. Step by step, they adjust their positions. Drawn arrows knock against shields, bowstrings hum with tension, and then, release. Thousands of arrows scream through the air, a relentless storm. Horses fall. Knights are pierced. Panic spreads through the French ranks. The first charge falters before it even reaches the English line. Mud, arrows, and sheer force of discipline turn the French pride to chaos. but the French refuse to yield. More waves of knights and men-at-arms surge forward. Every step is agony. Mud clings to boots, armor drags bodies down, horses slip and fall. The ground itself is a weapon. The pride and discipline of the French nobility are no match for mud, exhaustion, and hundreds of deadly arrows. And yet, the battle is far from over. The English are weary too. If the French break through, Henry himself could be captured or killed. Every moment is a gamble. And this is where leadership matters. Henry is not just commanding from the back. He is in the thick of it, his sword swinging, rallying men, his presence turning fear into fury. The psychological aspect of the battle is as deadly as the arrows or swords. English archers, mostly peasants, had spent their lives being told they were insignificant. Now, armed with the longbow and given the blessing of their king, they have power. Every arrow loosed is revenge, every fallen knight a triumph. The social order is inverted. Mud, sweat, and blood level the playing field. Hours drag on. French attacks come in relentless waves. Men-at-arms stumble in the mud, falling on each other. Horses collapse, dragging their riders to the ground. Knights, weighed down by 60 pounds of steel, suffocate in the mud. Screams echo across the field. The English line holds. Again and again, the French break against it. Henry's men, exhausted, begin to push forward. Archers switch to hand weapons, hatchets, knives, anything they can grasp. Farmers overwhelm nobles. Desperation and determination fuel their attacks. Bodies pile, blocking the rear ranks of the French. The battlefield becomes a churning river of mud, steel, and death. And then news reaches Henry. More French forces are approaching. He has hundreds of high-value prisoners, and he fears an uprising. He makes a decision that is as cold as it is pragmatic. He orders the execution of the prisoners, dukes, counts, knights killed to protect his army. Brutal, ruthless, but effective. By sunset, the outcome is undeniable. The French are shattered, thousands dead, nobles destroyed. The English, few casualties. The impossible has been achieved. Agincourt is not just a military victory, it is psychological. It is symbolic. It is a demonstration that courage, discipline, and intelligence can triumph over numbers and pride. Henry emerges a hero, a king immortalized by history. Shakespeare would later write, "We few, we happy few, we band of brothers." But the reality was far grimmer. Mud, screams, blood, exhaustion, and death. Agincourt proves that even when the odds are impossible, victory is possible. It is the story of desperation turned to innovation, of courage overpowering arrogance, of the weak defeating the strong, and it is a story that resonates even today. A lesson in leadership, strategy, and the human spirit. This is the Battle of Agincourt.